Why moral status may develop in stages. Many debates in bioethics become stalled because they assume a false choice. Either a being has full moral status or it has none. Either moral worth is present or it is absent. Gradualist and threshold theories reject that framing entirely. They begin with a simple but destabilizing claim: there is no single moral on off switch. Instead, moral status emerges and increases over time, in step with the development of sentience, cognition, and morally relevant capacities. The core idea behind gradualism is developmental realism. Human beings do not suddenly acquire all morally relevant features at once. Biological development is continuous. Neurological development is progressive. Psychological capacities unfold in stages. Gradualist theories argue that moral status should track that reality. On this view, moral worth is not binary, it is scalar. As a being develops the capacities that make harm meaningful, the capacity to feel pain, to experience distress, to have interests, to recognize the world, its moral claims grow stronger. Early stages matter, later stages matter more. Threshold versions of the theory introduce key developmental markers. Instead of a smooth continuum, they identify morally significant thresholds such as the onset of sentience, the capacity to feel pain, rudimentary consciousness, viability outside the womb, advanced cognition. Crossing each threshold increases moral protection, not because something magical occurs, but because new morally relevant features are now present. One of the great strengths of gradualist approaches is that they match biological reality. Embryology does not support sharp moral discontinuities. There is no single moment when consciousness suddenly appears, fully formed identity abruptly changes, moral relevance arrives all at once. Gradualism takes development seriously without forcing it into a binary ethical mold. This is also why gradualist theories are so attractive in public policy. Policy must govern pluralistic societies. Not everyone agrees on when life begins. Not everyone agrees on what grounds moral worth. Gradualism allows for moral compromise. It acknowledges early moral concern while justifying stronger protections later. This is why many abortion regulations, research ethics policies, and embryology laws are implicitly gradualist, even when they do not say so explicitly. In neonatal ethics, gradualist reasoning is unavoidable. Extremely premature infants present ethically complex cases. As neurological development increases, so do interest suffering capacity for benefit moral urgency. Gradualist thinking allows clinicians to weigh moral claims in proportion to developmental reality, rather than forcing an all or nothing judgment. In embryology regulations, thresholds are often written directly into law: 14-day rules, viability standards, pain perception debates. These are not random numbers. They represent attempts, imperfect but deliberate, to align moral concern with developmental milestones. Another strength of gradualist theory is that it avoids moral extremes. It avoids the claim that a newly fertilized embryo and a fully developed adult have identical moral status. It also avoids the claim that early human life has no moral significance at all. Instead, it occupies the uncomfortable middle. Early life matters, later life matters more. This resonates with how many people actually think, even if they struggle to articulate it philosophically. But gradualist theories also face serious criticisms. The most common is that thresholds can feel arbitrary. Why 14 days and not 13? Why viability here and not elsewhere? Why pain perception rather than consciousness? Biology develops continuously, yet policy demands lines. Gradualism admits that those lines are, to some extent, human constructions. That honesty is a strength, but also a vulnerability. Another critique is moral instability. If moral status increases gradually, then moral value is always in flux. At what point does harm become serious enough to prohibit action? At what point does protection become absolute? Gradualist theories often struggle to justify why some thresholds should carry decisive moral weight while others do not. There is also concern that gradualism can mask moral disagreement rather than resolve it. Thresholds may represent compromise, but compromise does not equal consensus. Critics argue that gradualist frameworks sometimes paper over deep ethical divides by turning moral judgment into regulatory timing, and yet, despite these challenges, gradualist and threshold theories dominate practical bioethics, not because they are philosophically perfect, but because they are workable. They allow societies to regulate research, protect vulnerable life, permit some practices while restricting others, adapt policy as science advances. They are ethics under conditions of disagreement. Gradualism reminds us of something essential. Bioethics does not operate in a vacuum. It operates in hospitals, in laboratories, in legislatures, in real time. And in those spaces, ethical absolutism often fails. The lingering question gradualist theory leaves us with is this: if moral status grows with development, how much growth is enough to demand full protection? And who gets to decide when that moment arrives? That question sits at the intersection of science, ethics, and law, and it ensures that gradualist theories, however imperfect, will remain central to bioethical debate for a long time to come.